Welcome to the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. I'm Melisa Liberman, a fellow IC and business coach. On this podcast, I teach you to become a consistently booked independent consultant without becoming a pushy salesperson or working 24/7. If I can do it, you can too. Listen on to find out how. Welcome to episode 213 of the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. This is Melisa Liberman, and today I'm excited to share with you something I've really been thinking a lot about. What is the difference between a consulting business and a consultant who generates 50K months versus one who hasn't yet reached that goal or reach that goal consistently? And so today I want to share with you the 4 steps to create 50K months for you as an independent consultant, so you can really see behind the scenes of what that will look like for you if you're not quite there yet, or that maybe you've hit 50K months, but not consistently. So you haven't yet generated a 500, 600K business. Let's dive into that topic today to help you to get to the place where you're creating 500, 600K in revenue, 50K months, broken down into 50K months, and where you can do it more consistently, more repeatedly, in a more fulfilled way. That is the formula for an independent consultant. So before we dive into the agenda and the content for today, I thought I would share a quick update. As we are recording this, we're about to leave on spring break. My oldest son, I think I shared with you, he's 14. He qualified for a regional swim meet. So it's in Utah. We live in Colorado. It's in Utah, and it's for the western part of the country. So he should be practicing at the moment, getting ready for that meet. But instead, he's skiing. A friend took he and my middle son up to the mountains. So they've been there for a few days, and we're going to go up and join them and enjoy some time with some friends and some spring skiing. And he is going to practice in the evenings on his own, which he's been doing at their rec center there. So it's kind of exciting, trying to fit everything in. He will be a freshman next year in high school. So I feel like everything is going so quickly at this point, and wanting to make the most of spring break, even though he's also trying to get ready for this swim meet. So that's what's happening here behind the scenes. I'm really excited to have a few days off and some space to enjoy my family, and also to think about my clients, think about what makes consulting businesses more successful. I feel like the best ideas and insights and kind of ahas always come when you have more space to think. So I can't wait for that. All right. Hopefully you are creating some more space for yourself to think, whether it's a spring break of some sort or even just a little bit of time away from the day-to-day. Okay, so with that, let's dive into today's topic, which is all about generating 50K months consistently. And what are the 4 steps to do that? First, we'll start off, let me give you the agenda for today. First, we'll start off and talk about what do 50K months look like. You might be worried that you would be working too much, or that it would be too stressful to juggle working on your business with client delivery. And so I want to talk with you about what could a 50K month look like, and why is it a great thing to have? Maybe you've already done this, but what would it look like to have it consistently? And as your new set point, it's just your new minimum. And then we'll dive into what are these 4 steps or components of a 50K per month consulting business. And then we'll break down each one of those 4 steps or components. And then we'll wrap it up with next steps to put this episode into action. As you're thinking about how to put the episode into action, one of the things that will be valuable is a companion resource. I always love to share companion resources with you. And today it really comes back to my book, Grow Your Consulting Business, the 14-step roadmap to make your independent consulting goals a reality. The 4 components that we're going to be focusing on today, there are 4 specific chapters in the book about these. So you can really download that book or go buy it on Amazon so you have the hard copy. You can find it on my website at melisabook.com, MELISA book.com, or consultingbusinessbook.com if you can't remember how to spell my name. And that will allow you to download the book in a PDF form. But I recommend buying it. The revenue obviously goes to me, so I would appreciate that. But also, more importantly, having this as your manual and being able to highlight it and write in it and all of those things can be really helpful as well. So, download or buy the book or both and use that as the companion resource as we're talking about these 4 areas that you can put into place to create consistent default 50K months where it's just really a no brainer that you're able to create 50K in a month and you don't really think about it and it becomes your new norm. Okay, so with that, let's start off with what does a 50K per month business? What could it look like for you? It can truly look like you working 10 months out of the year instead of 12. So you've got 50K per month equals a 500K per year business. And it can also look like having flexibility. And we'll talk about how this comes into being here in a moment. What does this actually mean? But I want to first share with you that it can be flexible, that you don't have to be working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or 60 hours a week to make this happen. Certainly, you have to be working. I'm not suggesting that you can make 50K per month working 10 hours a week, although I'm sure that's possible for some. It's not wouldn't be the norm that we're talking about here today, but it also doesn't mean that you have to be overworking either. You can be flexible. You can set it up so that you've got 50K per month, 10 months out of the year, 50K per month, 3 weeks out of the month. You can set up flexibility for yourself. 50K per month with a week off every quarter. However you want this to look, you can set it up for yourself, but it requires these 4 components we're about to discuss. You can also have freedom. You don't have to be tied to your business, thinking about it 24/7. You don't have to be settling on the type of client work or the types of clients that are not fulfilling for you or ideal for you. And you certainly don't have to be settling for work that is not the type of work that you want to be spending your time doing. You left corporate for a reason. You get to choose who you work with and what you do and be in full control over that. And that's what this 50K per month business can look like. The question is, what does it take to get there? And that's what we're going to be focusing the bulk of today's episode on. But before we do that, I want to give you a little bit of a caveat. The caveat is this. I'm going to share with you these 4 components or 4 steps that you could leverage to create these 50K per month business. But it's an evolution. The caveat is that this is not about perfection. You don't have to get to a perfect, one of these components. I'm about to tell you what they are. You don't have to perfect that component. You don't have to get the component so that everything's operating perfectly. There are so many consultants out there who have these 4 components in place in kind of a messy way, definitely not in a fully buttoned down way, not in a perfected way. They have these 4 components in place and they're treating them as living things, as evolving components of your business rather than something you're trying to get the right answer on. So I want to make sure that caveat is perfectly clear for you because as I share these 4 components with you and the 4 steps that you can take to create these 50K per month business, you really want to be thinking about how do you move the needle on these 4 components, not how do you get them perfect? How do you get them? Because you can certainly create a 50K per month business, a 500 or 600K business without these being perfected at any stretch of the imagination. There is actually no such of a thing anyway, right? Okay, so with that caveat in mind, I'll tell you what these 4 components are, and then we'll dive through each one of them. And as I share each one of these components in more depth, we'll talk about what each one is. I'll also share with you a question you can ask yourself or set of questions you can ask yourself to identify your areas of opportunity within each of these components. And that will help you to know what to prioritize and what to be focusing in on, whether you dive really deep into one of the components to improve it and therefore create your 50K per month new norm, or it might be that you want to take some sliver of each one of them and put them in place in a more robust way, and then to create your 50K months. So be thinking about that as we are going through this process so that you can really make the most of the time you're spending here listening to this episode. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 components. And like I said, then I'll dive into each one. The four components are this: in order to create 50K months as your new norm as an independent consultant or boutique consultancy, those four components are: number one, having an aligned offer; number two, having high quality demand; number three, having an aligned identity; and number four, building an action focus in your business. Now, at a high level, you might think to yourself, well, I have all those things, or I have everything but a clear offer. I want to walk you through each one of these because I can assure you that as an independent consultant, there is room for improvement in each of these areas for you to create consistent 50K months as your new norm. And even if you're at 1 million right now and you're listening to this episode, it's so important to go back to the fundamentals. Okay, so let's dive into each one of these components. The first is what I'll call an aligned offer or couple of offers. Let's talk about what this is first of all, and then I'll share with you the questions that you can be asking yourself to uncover your areas of opportunity in this component, the aligned offer component. For consistent, repeatable, new norm 50K months for you as a consultant, an aligned offer is one of those four components. What is an aligned offer? It really has three pieces to it. An aligned offer is defined by these three core elements. Number one, it addresses directly your ideal client's needs with your proposed solution. Let me say this again. I've been working on this definition for the last week or so, and I want to just make sure that this is really clear to you. Your aligned offer as a consultant has three core elements. The first of the elements are that your offer directly addresses your ideal client's recognized needs with your proposed solutions. So let's just simplify things here and say that you have a retainer offer. It's very simple to talk about this. And let's say that your retainer offer is 25K per month, so that you only need two of those clients to generate 50K per month. You want to be thinking about, how does this offer directly address my ideal client's recognized needs? And be thinking about it in that way. Sometimes we think about what clients should want. They should want these things that I'm offering, but they don't truly want them, or see there it's more of a nice to have than a must have. And so thinking about it, that you're building an offer that directly addresses your ideal client's recognized needs with your proposed solution. And you may have more than one aligned offer in your service mix in order to hit the 50K. I gave you a very simplistic example of 25K per month retainers. You would need two of those to create 50K per month. Or it might be that you have a mix of strategy work and retainers and even execution. Those would be three different types of offers. So you want to be thinking for each one of those, how do they directly address my ideal client's recognized needs with my proposed solution? The second component or element of an aligned offer is that it leverages your qualifications, your expertise, so that you can effectively deliver the solution. So we're at the intersection of your ideal client has a recognized need. It doesn't mean that they're out there posting requisitions for it or posting, job openings that you're trying to turn into consulting. But what it does mean is that they know that they have a problem that they want to solve. They might not know that consulting is the solution, but they know they have a problem and they're trying to figure out how to solve it. That's what we're talking about here. You don't want to get into the business of trying to educate your ideal clients that they should fix the problems that you fix. You can certainly do that, but it ends up creating such a long sales cycle and such a uphill climb for you that's just unnecessary unless you're in the mood to take on that mission. So we're looking at the intersection of for your aligned offer, and you may have more than one in your business, but each of those aligned offers directly addresses your ideal client's recognized needs with your proposed solution, and it leverages your expertise and qualifications to effectively deliver that solution. That's the intersection. And then thirdly, the third core element of your aligned offer is that it's priced in a way that aligns with your capacity and your business revenue goals. The math needs to work. For example, if we go back to our retainer example, if you're at the place where you're offering 10K retainers and you can only take on one at a time, then obviously the math is not going to work to get to 50K months. So that's why that third element is very, obviously so important. So the math needs to work. I'm going to repeat this one last time, and then I'll share with you what I like to call the driving question, the question to help you uncover the area of opportunity within this component, which is your aligned offer or aligned offer suite, if you will, if you have more than one. So let me repeat it one last time. Your aligned offer is defined by three core elements. Number one, it addresses your ideal client's recognized needs with your proposed solution. Number two, it leverages your expertise to effectively deliver that solution. And number three, it's priced in a way that aligns with your capacity and business revenue goals. And of course, it's aligned to what the client's perception of value is. But we want to make sure that all of those components are in place so that you're able to provide value to your client, deliver that value, and that the math works so that you're also reaching your own business goals. So here's what I call a driving question. It's actually a three-part question that can help you identify areas of opportunity. If you're at the place where you know that your aligned offer needs to be improved or optimized to hit the 50K per month goal. Here is the driving question, three parts. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does your service meet the challenges or goals of your target audience in a way that aligns to your ideal pricing? Let me say it again. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does your service meet the specific challenges or goals of your ideal target client in a way that matches up to your pricing? So you're asking yourself that question on a scale of 1 to 10, you're answering it. The number doesn't really matter. It's more about why is it that number? Why is it the number that you put? And then what would make it a 10? That helps you to identify what are your areas of opportunity as it relates to your aligned offer and how well it recognizes your client's needs, how well it leverages your expertise, and how well it fits with the pricing that would then all of those three components come together and create that 50K month for you. So you want to be thinking about that aligned offer and how it's delivering value to both your business and to your client at the end of the day. And that's what creates that aligned offer for you. Okay, for so many consultants, this is one of the big gaps that I see where you might feel like you're more of a generalist, where you might not be clear on how you help your clients or why your clients would be reaching out to you for your services. And so it gets really hard as you're trying to turn every conversation into a potential opportunity when you're not exactly sure what you're talking about or where you could add value to them and you're kind of searching for it. This can be one area to really focus in on if you're having those challenges with creating a reputation for yourself and really being sought after for the type of work that you do. Which then leads us into the second component of that 50K per month formula for an independent or boutique consultancy. And that is quality demand, high quality demand. Let me define this for you, and then I'll give you that driving question to help you identify areas of opportunity within this category. The quality demand is demand for your consulting services, which is simply a level of interest and willingness of your potential ideal clients to engage you as a consultant. And ultimately, the demand influences or results in the number of leads and opportunities you have in your pipeline. And the more demand you have, if you think about the simple supply demands from high school or college, those econ classes, more demand will result in you being able to charge higher prices, to be able to filter out clients, to get to the point where 50K per month is your new norm. Might even be one retainer client at 50K, or three retainer clients at 10K each, or two at 25, or it might be two strategy clients at a time plus a retainer. It's whatever that mix is. But the better able you are to create demand where people know what you do, where you stand out as an expert in the field and domain where you consult, the more you can drive inbound, higher quality leads for yourself, and then be able to pick and choose between the client engagements that you want to take or not want to take. The more you can have a process for yourself to generate this demand where it's repeatable and scalable. So, you know, when you do this amount of activity, such as speaking or writing or networking or going to events, whatever it is, you know, when you do those activities, that then it results in this outcome for your pipeline, the better able you are to have that type of predictable formula and to create highly interested opportunities for yourself and leads for yourself that then you can walk through a valuable sales process, the easier it will be to create these 50K months by default. So, the second component of your 50K per month business, that new default that you want to be creating, it is creating this high quality demand. So, the questions that you might ask yourself, there's two of them, to really sit down and think about where are your areas of opportunity to improve the quality of your demand and the quantity of your demand. But we would rather have quality than quantity if we had to choose. We don't have to choose, but if we had to choose. So the two questions that you want to be asking yourself and answering to uncover those areas of opportunity as it relates to demand and the quality of your demand are: number one, what are three ways that you can improve your lead quality? And then secondarily, what are three ways you can improve your lead quantity without sacrificing quality? So that's the second component of your new 50K by default business, is having and building out the process, the mindset, the approach, the quantifiableness, if that's a word, of your demand. So we've so far got your aligned offer, what it is you're offering and to whom you're offering it, and how the pricing and math works and the value for those end clients. Then we have the high quality demand, that component of your 50K per month business. Then we have your aligned identity. This is the third component. You know, if you've been listening to this podcast for any duration, that mindset is such a key component of a successful consulting business, and quite frankly, an enjoyable or fulfilling consulting business. You might be able to succeed, but if you're miserable, that doesn't help. That's not the recipe for longevity for sure. So let's talk about this third component, the aligned identity. The definition: an aligned identity for you as an independent consultant or boutique consultancy really encompasses, number one, how you think about yourself, what's possible for you, and your professional capabilities, your ability to deliver that aligned offer and to create that high quality demand and to fulfill that high quality demand. And then secondarily, how you present yourself to shape your reputation and influence prospect and ideal client and industry perceptions. So we have really, if we break this down, it's the internal. In terms of an aligned identity, it's the internal. How do you think about yourself and what's possible for you and your business? And number two, the external, how you're presenting yourself in an aligned way that helps to shape your reputation and create a sought after reputation for yourself in your domain, in your industry, for what you do. Let me give you an example of why this is so important. I often get the question, even from clients who I've been working with for a while. It finally kind of creates an aha moment at some point. Oh, I understand now why mindset is so important. I hadn't realized, even after listening to so many podcast episodes, even after reading so many of your emails, even after talking with you or working with you, at some point in the journey, sometimes it's right away, sometimes it's in the middle of the journey, or even toward the end, where those clients, those consultants will say to me, now I understand why mindset is so important. And of course, mindset is a part of identity. It's the way you're thinking about yourself. It's the way you're thinking about your ideal clients. It's the way you're thinking about the industry and the market and what's possible for you. So this aligned identity, the core of the way you think about yourself, is incredibly important. It's the operating system for which you're taking action, for which you're designing your offers, for which you're creating demand. or suppressing demand, whatever might be happening for you right now. That's why this is so incredibly important. Let me give you an example. A very simple example. If you think of yourself as a consultant, I'm just a fill in the blank. I hear so often, I'm a generalist or I'm just a whatever, fill in the blank. Thinking of yourself in that way, just imagine the result of that. The result of that is you hide, you see yourself more as a commodity than as an expert. You're not pitching yourself for speaking opportunities. You're not putting yourself out there to meet new collaborators or channel partners. You're not thinking about yourself as someone who's a thought leader and therefore publishing articles or even writing on LinkedIn in a meaningful, repetitive way. When you think of yourself as I'm a generalist, or I'm one of so many out there, a sea of consultants, of course you're going to hide. Of course you're not going to stand out because of the way you're thinking about yourself, not because of what is on your LinkedIn history, as an example, or your resume if you had one. Juxtapose that, compare that to if you think about yourself as I'm a sought after expert for what I do, or make it a little softer. It's possible I'm a sought after expert for what I do. I'm a sought after expert for what I do. It doesn't have to be I'm the sought after expert for what I do. I'm a sought after expert for what I do is the thought process, is the identity. Imagine when you think of yourself in that way, and then what the actions that occur from that thought process, as opposed to I'm one of many or I'm a generalist. When you think of yourself as I'm a sought after expert, of course you would be so much more confident and willing to propose yourself for speaking opportunities. When you know you might not get it, that's not a problem. But when you think I'm a sought after expert, you put your name in the hat. You reach out to channel partners. You think of yourself as that person who's doing business versus making it personal. So that's why this is so important. And the questions that you might ask yourself to uncover areas of opportunity in this third component, which is your aligned identity, you might ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how qualified are you as an expert for your aligned offer and your ideal clients? On a scale of 1 to 10, how qualified do you believe you are as an expert for your aligned offer? The goal is not to get to a 10. I'm not even a 10 at that most days. I'm a human. You are too. The goal is not to be a 10 all of the time. The goal is to understand what is the undercurrent in your mind that is holding you back from being a 10. What might you be thinking that's creating self doubt or imposter syndrome or some overcorrection to be too more humble than is valuable to you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how qualified do you believe you are as an expert for your aligned offer and ideal clients? Why is it that number? We're just trying to understand, what are you thinking? What are the gaps in your mindset and your identity and the way you just think of yourself? Let me say this to you, and then let me finish this and I'll come back. And then what would make it a 10? How would you need to be thinking about yourself? How would you need to be thinking about your offer? How would you need to be thinking about your ideal clients and what you have to offer them that would make it a 10? This is the aligned identity. If you had to choose any one of these four categories, this is often the best starting point, is really understanding for yourself, where is the gap between what you want to be doing and what you feel qualified to be doing and what you've given yourself permission to be doing and how you've given yourself the ability to call yourself an expert and to be sought after and to raise your hand as you are one of the people who has such deep expertise in the area that you're choosing to consult in. This is what's so important. If you had to choose any of these, a little hint here, I would choose this one to start with. Because, like I was just describing to you, it's the way you're thinking is the operating system against which you're creating and delivering those aligned offers. And the operating system against which you're uncovering that and creating that and generating that high quality demand. So that's why that aligned identity is so important. If you think about it, whatever it is you're generating right now, let's say it's 100K per year. So it's around 10K per month. Or let's say it's 750,000 per year. So 75K per month. Maybe you're at 30K per month on average. Whatever your average is a direct reflection of the way you're thinking. It is a direct reflection of the way you see yourself. And therefore, what you're willing to do and not do, what you're willing to say and not say, what you're willing to offer and not offer, and the skills that you've created for yourself. So that's why this aligned identity is so important, is creating that 50K identity for yourself. Let me give you a bonus question. The bonus question is, if you're having a hard time thinking about let's say that you're at 25K per month average right now, so 250K business, and it's hard to imagine how a 50K per month business owner thinks, how that someone who just does it without it really thinking about it. You might be at the place right now where you create 200K, on autopilot, really. Like, you're not worried that you're going to go below that. It just feels like your norm. Ask yourself, what are the ways you're thinking that creates that norm for yourself? Because there are other people who are struggling to create 100K per year norm. They're thinking differently than the way you're thinking at 200K. And the way that people are thinking at 500K is different than the way you're thinking at 200K, if that's where you're at, and so on and so forth. So really exploring, how does a 50K per month by default business owner think? Okay, let's move on to the last component, which is action focus. Action focus. And honestly, this could be an episode in and of itself. We know that we can't just be thinking or creating offers in a lab or sitting at our desk wondering about how we could better align our identity or generate more demand. All of this requires action. It requires the combination of really thinking, having that space and time to think. Like I was saying, I'm about to do in a more concerted way over spring break, but I prioritize it every day in my business. And it's so important to be doing that for yourself as well. So in addition to thinking, we also need to be taking action. And that's what this last component of a 50K per month business looks like, is an action focus. So let me define this for you and then give you some elements of what this means. An action focus is a proactive approach characterized by a strong commitment to achieving goals, which, by the way, implies you've set the goals, a strong commitment to achieving goals, a readiness to experiment and learn from setbacks, and a bias toward taking decisive action to drive progress despite negative emotions. Let me say that one more time. It's kind of a jam-packed definition that I cobbled together, but it's these words that I chose to share with you today are really important. Action focus is a proactive approach characterized by a strong commitment to achieving goals, a readiness to experiment and learn from setbacks, and a bias toward taking decisive action to drive progress despite negative emotions or in spite of negative emotions. You're going to feel bad. That's part of being a business owner. And quite frankly, sometimes this business model is even trickier because we can take it personally. We've talked before about not taking it personally, but listen, you're a human. The more you can separate yourself from the business, the better, but you're going to experience negative emotion. So taking that action in spite of the negative emotion. Let's break down these words that I just shared with you. A commitment to succeed means that you've got a strong determination to achieve your goals, no matter the challenges, no matter if it feels like the market isn't on your side, no matter what those setbacks are. Number two, a willingness to experiment. That's another component of this action focus. Your openness to trying new approaches and learning from them, regardless of success or failure. Resilience in the failure when it happens. Viewing setbacks as opportunities so you can learn and improve, and having an evaluation process for yourself so that you can really understand what's working and what's not working and create and continuously improve what it is you're doing, which leads to that readiness to adjust. So we talked about the readiness to experiment and learn from setbacks, meaning that you're adjusting and adapting based on the results that you're creating for yourself. Being decisive, making quick, effective decisions. Even under uncertainty, there's never going to be someone who just tells you, how is this going to work out? You have to learn how to make a decision go all in on it, which means you're committed on making that decision work, and then evaluating and adjusting as you go. Having a goal is another component of that sentence, that long sentence I just gave you for active action focus. Having a goal, setting a goal, even if you don't know how you're going to make it happen, even if it feels risky, even if it feels impractical, even if it doesn't feel logical, even if it doesn't feel realistic, setting a goal. 50K per month in this example. I love that way of thinking about it too. Of course, you may have contracts that pay lump sums and it might be a little bit more lumpy. But if you think about it as a 50K per month goal, then you give yourself 12 chances in a year to hit that number. And you can just keep building upon your learnings. That's the benefit of setting a goal and being committed to it. And prioritizing doing and progressing over thinking or over analyzing or getting stuck in analysis paralysis. Let me repeat the definition of you having an action focus. This is one of those 4 steps or one of those 4 components to create your 50K per month as the new norm. The action focus is a proactive approach characterized by strong commitment to achieving goals, a readiness to experiment and learn from setbacks, and a bias toward taking decisive action to drive progress despite or in spite of negative emotions. As we wrap up this 4th component, let me share with you the questions you could ask yourself to uncover the areas of opportunity within this pillar. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to your goal? This not sounds like a throwaway question, or it might sound kind of insulting. Well, how committed are you? Of course, I'm committed. I wouldn't be here if I weren't committed. I wouldn't still be listening if I weren't committed, you might be saying. But at the end of the day, so often we set goals, but the truth is we're not truly committed to them in the sense that, of course, you are on paper, of course, you are logically. But you want to be uncovering in what ways are you not committed? What are you unwilling to do? What are you unwilling to try? Where have you been indecisive and not setting a strategy and saying, I know I can create 50K per months as my new norm with this plan, with this aligned offer, with this way of generating demand, with this identity that I'm working on. And I'm going to do that no matter what. That's what commitment sounds like. So ask yourself and be honest. No one else is looking unless you have a coach like me. Well, let's talk through this and find the areas, the gaps. It's so important. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to your goal? In this case, the 50K per month. Why is it that number? Again, the goal isn't to be a 10. The goal is to know what the number is so you can understand why is it that number. Are you thinking it's not possible for you? Are you thinking it's not sustainable? Are you thinking that it's not realistic and so you don't want to disappoint yourself? Be honest with yourself about all of this. And then answer the question, what would make it a 10? And most of that comes down to the way you're thinking. Okay, so those are the 4 components of a 50K per month consulting business. Aligned offer or set of aligned offers, high quality demand, an aligned identity, an identity that's aligned to your goal, and implementing an action focus. As we wrap up today's episode, here are the 4 ways to put this into action. Number 1, as you've been thinking about and answering the questions that we've been talking through on this episode, choose one area to focus on for the next quarter. What do you believe will move the needle for you? It might be really getting clearer on your aligned offer and what is that offer and what are the problem sets that your ideal clients have? How do they know they have them? Who are they telling that they have those? How can you build then a lead generation and quality demand system around that? So choose one area to focus on for the quarter. It might be some component of aligned offer and quality demand and aligned identity and action focus. Or it might be one where you go really deep and then build a plan around that. Answer the questions that I shared with you today to uncover your areas of opportunity and build a plan around it. And then commit to it and implement a process where you're really clear on what it is you're committed to and evaluating and iterating against it. This is the type of operating system that I help my independent consulting and boutique consulting clients to implement. It can be really challenging to do for ourselves. But as soon as you reach out and get help by an expert, someone who does this all day long for themselves and helping their clients to achieve these types of goals, you can break past the plateaus that you have hit. You can create these 50K per month as your new norm. And that's where coaching comes in. Get help. Have someone who's done this before help you. Book a time on my calendar at consultmelisa.com. My name is spelled Melisa. We'll put the link in the show notes. Book a call, an exploratory call. Let's see if working together would be a good fit and help you to get to the place where you've reached your goals and set a new norm for yourself and your business. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again next week. Take care. Thanks for joining me this week on the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. If you liked today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. First, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to make sure you don't miss future episodes. Next, leave me a review in your podcast app so other independent consultants can find and benefit too. And finally, to put the ideas from today's episode into action, head over to melisaliberman.com for the show notes and more resources to help you grow your consulting practice from your first few projects into a full-fledged business. See you next week.